Hi there, this is Billy Earl, and welcome to Delmarva Americana. Tonight's guest is Mr. Paul Reed Smith, CEO, rock star, luthier, you name it. On to the show.
128735 hike.
Go.
What?
Paul, welcome to Delmarva Americana. Tell us, if you will, what it's like to be a rock and roll star and a CEO.
First of all, I'm not a rock and roll star. I am a managing general partner in the world that the government provides for how you can have companies. There are sole proprietorships, and there are partnerships, and there are limited partnerships, and then there are corporations and S-corps, and all these different ways you can have a business. And the way we do it, the way we've done it, is with limited partnership. It's the same way a lot of movies raise money. And that makes me the managing general partner. So that's what my position is here. I try to run this place like a democracy with executive privilege at the very end, which I very, very rarely invoke. I think that's a good way to do it. I can't remember a meeting I said I disagreed with everybody who were doing it my way meeting over. I don't remember that. People take a lot of liberty with that around here, which I think is good because it makes them not feel trumped in their responsibilities, which I very much enjoy. You called me a rock star, which I'm not. If John Mayer walks down the Annapolis Mall, trust me, he's mobbed. I walk down the mall, people are bored. It's just not the way it is. So in the guitar world, there was just somebody here from Malta, and for him, and him being a guitar player, and him wanting one of those products his whole life, for him, I'm a big fish in a little pond, which is fine. I get no problem with that. When we took the band to China, it was like being in America in 1969 or something. They hadn't eaten the food of rock and roll before, right? It was new to them. And they've been playing the tunes on the radio a lot, on Yodai's station, who's the DJ who's credited with bringing Western music to China.
Okay.
And they were singing the words, and we were halfway around the world. It was unbelievable. The rooms were packed. We had trouble getting to the stage sometimes. It was a different ball game.
Well, how cool is that?
It was very cool, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that Gary and Greg and Michael and Mia played very, very well. We had a wonderful time. It's not here, I can tell you that. They fed me food at one point that I knew wasn't chicken, I knew wasn't pork, and I knew wasn't beef, which left a few other possibilities. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't frog, and it wasn't crayfish. And it wasn't fish.
We're narrowing it down.
Yeah, we're narrowing it down. There's a different animal. And I got up with Gary and I went outside and I went, that wasn't what we think it was. He goes, get over it, we're in China, which I thought was interesting. Of all things, I've been playing the CD that we've just released, this thing, Time to Testify, that's out on Steve Vai's label, Favored Nations. I've been playing it in England on the radio. We got permission to do a few tunes from the Experienced Hendrix people, and there are some videos of us recording those tunes on our band website, which is kind of cool. There's some tunes on there that we adore. We like I Can't Breathe, we like Moving Mountains, we like Look at the Moon and Tears in the Rain and A Time to Testify. Some of the tunes on there we like. We enjoy playing, so that's good fun.
How long were you over there?
A week.
Okay. And you were in Beijing?
We were in Beijing and Shanghai and Hong Kong.
Okay. Yeah. It's another world over there.
A what?
Another world.
It's another world, except I found the people to be very similar in their ways, in some ways. In some ways they were very experienced, in some ways they were innocent. It was different. You're right, it's another world. But I think we see China as the government over there, and they see us as the government over here. But I'm sorry, these are people with families and loves and businesses and trying to go to school and all kinds of things.
And trying to listen to good music. Paul, what led you to the band?
I've always loved playing music. If I opened a guitar case, or let's say I sat down at Washington Music in Wheaton and I played guitar, everybody run away. If I opened a guitar case, something I built, it draw a crowd. I had to pay attention to that feedback. So I'm sure it's been the other way. People, they play and people draw a crowd, and then they open a guitar case, something they built, and everybody runs away. I'm sure it's been the other way around. But I had to pay attention to that feedback, and for me, making guitars is easy. Although breaking some of the codes about what happened in the 50s has been some of the hardest professional work I've ever done.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, how do you make an old Fender pickup sound the same with present-day materials? How do you make a pickup from, which is called a PAF, sound the same? How do you modify it? So, because if you had 10 of the pickups, they all sounded different. I find a real consistency in the old Fender stuff. It sounds pretty much the same. And when you measure it, it's about the same. The old Gibson stuff is all over the map. And I used to think it was the other way around.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Ted. Yeah. Thank you, Fred Gretsch. Thank you, John D'Angelico. Thank you, Stradivari. Thank you, Guadagnini. Thank you for all of them. For Rickenbacker and Martin and all of them.
Well, Paul, what are you going to do with this band?
Of our business, huh?
Yeah, what are you going to do with this band? How much touring are you going to do?
I don't know. We just had a CD release party. It was well attended.
Rams Head?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We played in Philadelphia when it came out. That was well attended. We're playing in Purcellville coming up for a big show. There's been talk about us going on tour with Mana, but I don't know what's going to happen. The problem, and I keep telling this band, we have these meetings, and I go, I'm running a company. I
got other stuff to do.
Well, it's not that I got other stuff to do. I adore these people.
Yeah.
When we get in a room, we're going to play, we get excited. It's just good fun. But the answer, I don't know. I'm hoping that some of the music sticks. I hope that some of these interviews that you're doing and you pass this music on, you should play some of this music for your listeners.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
And there's not one song in here I'm not proud of. I wouldn't say only listen to track 3 and 4.
Right.
I mean, I could go, here, let's pick one. Moving Mountains.
Okay.
Great tune. No problem. Listen to it.
No, this is going to get played on the radio and on the television.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Of all tunes, the one they're playing in China a lot is Tears in the Rain, which we don't play live, but we will.
Okay.
We play most of the ones that are on there. Yeah. And eventually we'll play them all.
Well, the company's doing really, really well.
Finally.
Yeah.
After a very, very long period of the market not doing so well. It's doing well now.
Yeah, well, perseverance is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
Tell me about this little git fiddle you're playing right there.
I think it's one of ours.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a PRS. It says custom on it. I guess that's the model, right? So look, this is a guitar I've never held before.
Uh-huh.
And it's played to an amp that I've never played to before, and I'm getting a professional recording tone out of it right there on the spot. I mean, it's not even mic'd up. You're only hearing it through the lapel, right?
Yeah.
If that's what a guitar is doing right out of the box, then we've done our job.
That's pretty amazing. That's
That
pretty
sounds
amazing.
beautiful to me. That's our new Sunzera amp, and this is a custom 24.
Tell us about the components on that guitar. Where does that wood come from?
So this wood that's painted black is mahogany. It came from South America. The Rosewood came from India, from trees that were blown down in the monsoons. It's actually recovered wood. The tuning pegs are made of brass and zinc and aluminum and steel. This nut is made of bearing plastic that's loaded with bronze powder, so it's much heavier. It doesn't deaden the string. This bridge is mostly made out of brass. We wound these pickups here with copper coils and Alnico magnets, and it's got special wiring in it that we kind of came up with and order the parts special. It's okay to have a plastic backplate. Seems okay to me.
Okay.
Although they're putting wooden ones on the private stocks for reasons I don't completely understand other than the customers request it. Can you please put wooden backplates on my car? Sure, anything you want. That'll cost you another $350. No problem.
Okay.
Fine, I'll do it.
Write that check.
Or give me your credit card.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Indonesia last week, 2 weeks ago, and to England, and I stopped in Singapore. I had $500 cash in my pocket when I left. I had $500 cash in my pocket when I got home. Everything was on a credit card.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
They don't even charge you. Even a drink on the airplane is done with a credit card.
It's all plastic.
McDonald's, everything. They're just transferring the money from one account to another. It's starting to be less paper every day.
Yeah. Now, when you go to Indonesia, you're there looking specifically for wood sources?
No, we were there looking for a guitar manufacturer for one of our lines.
Oh.
Because they have some very highly skilled guitar factories there.
I'll be darned.
I can't buy the parts in this country for what I can buy the guitar from them for.
Wow.
So if you want a guitar that costs you $700, I can't do that in this country, although we have gotten it down to the $1,000 mark.
Yeah.
From guitars from this country, which is very difficult. RS2 lines like that.
That's the evolution of the business, isn't it?
Yeah. You know something? All I want is the customers to get a guitar that they can use that does its job right off the bat. That's what I want. I want people to get their money's worth and more. But going back to the band, you know, there were probably 20 songs, 30 songs recorded, and we honed it down and honed it down and honed it down, and that's where we ended up. They didn't even have a qualification for this music. So we don't even know what genre this is. I said, it's Chesapeake Gumbo. I said, we never heard of that.
Chesapeake Gumbo.
It's a combination of Cajun music and Baltimore groove and DC groove and hip-hop and go-go and New York grooves and Hendrix stuff and, you know, English rock stuff. It's a big gumbo of stuff.
Okay.
Because if you didn't play that music in this town, you didn't work. So there was a band in this town called the Soul Crackers, and they did all, Mighty Clouds of Joy and Meters music from New Orleans, right? You know, and that was one of the bands in town. There were all these great bands that used to play. You know, Chuck Brown was from this area. It was Dennis Chambers, the only drummer to ever be on the cover of Modern Drummer 7 times, is from this area.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. This is a real drummer, bass player, guitar player area.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about the band. Who's in it? Who are your players?
Musicians. No, it's a joke. Gary Granger and Greg Granger. So Gary was the bass player in John Scofield's band with Dennis Chambers for 6 years. And Greg Granger was the drum. That's my phone.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll do it again.
It's
You
okay.
want to cut it? I'll do it again. Hold on, let me just turn this off. It'll stop.
It's not going without a fight, is it?
It's going to go. All right. So Gary and Greg Granger are the rhythm section.
Okay.
Gary was the bass player in John Scofield's band. Gary and Greg Granger are the rhythm section. Gary was the bass player in John Scofield's band with Dennis Chambers for 6 years. And Greg played in Whitney's band. And they grew up playing drums in the basement in Baltimore.
Okay.
You know, Gary, the older brother, said, I need somebody to play drums. Come down here, younger brother, you know. And Michael Alt has been my guitar partner on and off for 20 years. He lives in Sterling, Virginia. Mia is a new member of the band. She's been in the band about 3 years. She's from West Baltimore. She grew up in the gospel scene up there. She was a member of the gospel choir at 3 and a full-time member at 6 years older because her mother was a piano player. And she's got some pipes on her. She can sing. And Bill Nelson, who runs Johns Hopkins Oncology, plays in the band and sings as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some guest people on the record. Chris Lusinger is a guitar player that does all the recording for Garth Brooks in the studio. He's on there. And Randy Boland, the great guitar player from Philadelphia. At 16 years old, he was at Sigma Sound as one of the studio guitar players, and now he's Jill Scott's MD, amongst other things.
Okay.
Also, Wizard, the bass player from Mother's Finest, and Kevin Walker, who used to play in Justin Timberlake's band, those two bass players were on there as well. Some of those tracks have 3 bass players on at the same time.
Really?
Yeah. Normally, people use 3 drummers and 1 bass player. We did it the other way around.
The opposite way around.
Well, if you get a lock, it's cool. If you don't get a lock, it's a mess.
Yeah.
But you watch the videos that are online. Would they get a lock?
YouTube? Is that where they are?
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, you just look Time to Testify, and the Freedom and Machine Gun videos will come up.
Okay, all you out there. Time to Testify on YouTube. Now, how did you choose these players? Is it just people you played with for years and they know you and you know them?
Oh, wow. Well, Gary and Greg auditioned me for a year and a half.
Okay.
So they said, Paul, we want you to come play in Julia Nixon's band. And I said, what's that? Well, Julia Nixon was the singer on Broadway for A Color Purple when it was on Broadway. Okay. And we play in her band, and you come play in the band. So a year and a half I played in the band. Never got paid, never asked to be paid, didn't want anything to do with getting paid. I had complete freedom. The keyboard player and the bass player, Gary and David, had all the harmony covered, and Julia and her sister Cynthia and these other people had all the vocals covered. So if I wanted to copy what Julia did and play like an echo tour, I could. If I wanted to do what Cynthia was doing, I could do it. If I wanted to play chords underneath David, I could do it. If I wanted to play a solo, I mean, literally Julia would look over at me with her jaw dropped over and over and over. Who are you, right? Because we didn't rehearse what's coming out of your guitar amp.
Okay.
I was completely free. So in a year and a half, Gary walks into my office and says, I'm your new bass player. I said, you can't say that. He goes, well, I just did. I said, I've been thinking about it for a year and a half. In other words, for a year and a half, I've been in an audition. I didn't know it.
Okay.
And Michael Alt and Ralph Perucci, but Michael Alt go in and out of the band, have been in and out of the band this whole time. And Michael and I have been playing forever. We can hear each other think. And me, as I said, auditioned for the band. And that went really well. Kevin Walker, the bass player from Justin Timberlake's band who plays in town here. He's not any longer in Justin's band, but he had been playing with Prince and a bunch of other people, brought Mia to us and said, I think she's worth a chance.
Okay.
We said, she's good. And then Bill just started showing up at gigs. And Randy just started showing up in the studio. They just started showing up. It was like a shark circling it.
I'll be done.
I called him a shark because you're like a shark circling this band trying to take a chomp out of us.
Where do you guys record?
In my studio at my house.
Okay.
I've built the studio 3 times. I built it, I tore it apart. I built it, I tore it apart. I built it the 3rd time I left it.
Okay. So this whole album has been done there.
Yeah.
There in your home.
Well, yeah, but it's a real recording studio. I mean, it's not just a home studio. It's a real recording studio.
What kind of equipment do you use?
Well, there are views of it online, but
Okay.
it was all custom-made stuff. It was custom-made A to D converters and custom-made mic pre's and custom-made microphones. And there's a big tape machine sitting there. They're using it as a digital to analog converter. It's not running tape. So
Okay.
it's all custom-made stuff by a guy named Josh Florian, and he did a tremendous job. The speakers are old mastering speakers basically for mastering studios. They're called Dunlobbies, and I built another set of speakers. And it's not hardly a standard thing in the place.
All special.
All special.
Let me ask you another question. Tell me about the reclamation program that you have for fine woods.
Okay, so what you're talking about are these new reclaimed guitars that we
Yeah.
did out of Orosa and Brayuna. It's old stuff, maybe 100, 200 years old, and we reclaimed it and cut it and made it into guitars, and there's nail holes in it and all kinds of stuff, and everybody likes the way they sound, and we sold them all in a day. We sold like 700 of them in a day. And who knew? I mean, it was you don't have a way to study the market to find out if reclaimed wood's going to go well. You have to do it on your experience and your knowledge, and picking the guitar. We made a prototype, and everybody liked it. So we trusted our own experience and said, maybe we got something here.
700 just flew off the
No.
off the shelf.
700 got put on order. 700 have to be built by the employees. We don't just take an order and ship. Doesn't work that way. It's not like we order cantaloupes and ship cantaloupes, and we need another tractor trailer of cantaloupes. We got to grow the cantaloupes.
How long is it going to take to fill those 700 orders?
4 months, maybe. 5 months, yeah.
That's moving right along.
Yeah, it's moving along. There's 250 people here making guitars. Take a tour. Get some B-roll. You'll like it.
There you go. Like to. Why don't you play a little bit for us?
Well, so one of the tunes is I Can't Breathe, and the chords are. And there's a line underneath. So think about that. So you've got the line going along with the chords, and she's singing along with it. Or Time to Testify is. Anyway, it goes along. There's a lot of beautiful tunes. Moving Mountains is. How's it go? That goes. I was doing I Can't Breathe. Anyway, there's a lot of tunes on the record. Just listen. Look, I'm much more of a band musician than I am an individual player.
Okay.
I know my parts. I know how to play my parts, and here's a Carlos Santana melody. But without the rest of the band, it's just a part, right? It's a beautiful melody, and you know it's Carlos, right? But for me, it's the same way. I've got these parts that I play in the band of the tunes.
Now, all the material on there, did you write it all?
No, I didn't write it all.
How much?
50% of it.
Okay. Do you write with other people?
Anytime anybody wants to contribute or pick up the football, I'm all in.
Okay. Do you have a process when you write something?
Mostly the words are written and the tunes come from that. Sometimes the music's written and the words are written afterwards. But depends. I mean, if you name one of these tunes, I can tell you how it was written.
Moving Mountains?
All right, so Moving Mountains, I called Randy Bowen and I said, can we get something that's somewhere between Mother's Finest and Billie Jean?
Okay, that's quite a bit.
And he came up with this beautiful line, and what had happened was, very West Baltimore. I don't even say it right.
You're doing shtick now, aren't you?
No, the band laughs at me, right? Well, our friend Bugs Henderson died.
Yes.
And I was at the funeral. And Patty, his wife, was telling me a story. She goes, my friends, they're moving mountains for me. They've been helping me during this whole... Man, I got out of pad, started writing everything she said down. So...
We love Bugs in Dallas.
Yeah.
We just loved him.
Yeah.
He was
really
at the Granada quite a bit.
It was really something.
Yeah.
An extraordinary musician. And my friends are moving mountains is what the tune's about. It's about her friends helping her after Bugs passed. And it's a great... Same thing with Look at the Moon. My wife said, look at the moon. Every time I see it, I feel blessed. I got out of pad so fast,
There
I'm
you
writing
go.
as fast as I can.
Okay, did you give her co-equal writing credit on that?
Paige, yes.
Yes.
Patty, no.
Okay. Tell me about
Paige
Americana music.
contributed to the words after the initial thing was down. Patty just sat there and basked in it. She was just happy as she could be.
Yeah, it's a new song.
Yeah.
Tell me about Americana music. What does that mean to you?
Well, you've got this music that's based in black blues and jazz, and there are these different kinds of feels that came out of New Orleans and out of Baltimore and D.C. and New York and L.A. and Detroit and Seattle. Whereas in England, it was much more of them listening to those records, and they had their own interpretation. I have a friend named Bertie Marsden, and he plays English blues, and he doesn't play it like an American. And I said, Bernie, you got English blues written on your bones. And they play it different there. But so the Americans would, be listening to, Hendrix would talk about listening to Cream and all these things. Cream was listening to all the Americans, and they were listening back and forth, but they had their own interpretation. One of my favorite quotes is they asked Hendrix how it felt to be the greatest guitar player alive. He goes, I don't know. Ask Rory Gallagher, who was an Irish monster guitar player. Just monstrous.
Loves his work.
Yeah. So, but Rory was playing Irish blues, which is a little different than English blues,
Of course it would be.
but not that much, but enough, right? So Americana has got flavors of jazz and Cajun and this R&B thing that came out of Detroit and all the stuff that came out of Seattle, including Hendrix, and all the stuff that came out of L.A. I mean, even Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta had its own kind of music, and that's where Mother's Finest came from. And D.C. Had this whole go-go thing. Here's a good example. There used to be gigs at the 930 Club in D.C. with the Godfather of Soul and the Godfather of Go-Go. James Brown was closing the act, and Chuck Brown was opening it. Oh my God! Wow, what a powerful event! Yeah, look, the music in D.C. was just powerful. You could go into D.C. and there'd be something going on every day. The Nighthawks were so much in the middle of the blues scene. When they had the Olympics in New York, the band that played for all the athletes was the Nighthawks.
Yeah. That's what I grew up on.
Yeah. There was a time where you could be at any concert hall in the parking lot, and you couldn't look anywhere in any direction without seeing a Nighthawks t-shirt. They were so big. They were huge. They were monsters.
WHFS.
Yeah.
They had a lot to do with them. Do you remember the Crossroads down in Bladensburg?
I was too young. I've been there. I was down at Peace Cross just the other day. I
Yeah.
remember it as the place that Roy
Buchanan
played. I got to make guitars for Roy. I saw Danny play, Danny Gatton play in Georgetown. I never got him to see him play there. I was just too young.
Yeah.
I'm 61. I would have been 13, just not old enough to go in the bar scene.
Danny played at the Varsity Grill in College Park.
Used to play upstairs. The Fat Boys used to play upstairs in a little teen bar. I've been in the place where I was closer to Danny than you and me, and I was the only guy in the place.
Really?
Only person sitting at the bar. There was nobody else in the club, just me. Wow. Wow.
Personal show. Boy, them's the days.
Them's the days. Had little teeny amps playing a Telecaster, and genius is just flowing out of him.
Yeah, you watch him on some of the old the YouTube things, and it's just, how does he do it? How does he do it? That's how.
He was good.
What's the band going to do in the future?
We have a whole nother record written. I don't know what's going to happen. We've been talking to the DJ in China that's picked it up, that's been playing it. He's coming here in May to talk to us about what to do. But I got a funny feeling we're going to end up back in China playing.
Okay.
He's got a club in Beijing, and they've done a contest on the radio in China. And they've basically asked the Chinese audience, and we're talking millions of people,
Oh, yeah.
which traditional Chinese song they want us to record.